I relate to Will Byers because I also had a really ugly bowl cut when I was a kid. But thank God, we both grew out of it. I also relate to him because I had a crush on my best friend. I grew out of it. Clearly, someone else missed the memo. But that's chill, because Stranger Things is this show all about being different. Because let's face it, they're weird. Whether it's because of who they are at their core, which for some of them is gay, or because of how they were raised, which for some of them is in a lab, they're made fun of and ostracized by society. And that's what makes it such an interesting show, because it's about being loved despite those differences. And I know I'm being kind of mean to them, but it's like friendly fire because I'm talking to a camera right now. So, gay people, Will Byers. Let's talk about him. I wanted to talk about him as a character because, like, yeah, he's a person, but first and foremost, there is a writer behind him, making sure every one of his actions, his lines are deliberate and sending a message to the audience. And if it wasn't obvious by the title, this will be a Byler-centric analysis. I know I'm biased. You don't have to tell me. You also don't have to tell me that I look like I'm pushing 30 when I haven't even graduated high school yet. So guys, be nice. Peace and love. Okay, yay. The Duffers said in a recent interview that Will hasn't always been a leader, he's always been more fearful than the others, and he hasn't really accepted himself the way some of the other characters have. And I'm mostly against like close reading interviews word for word. I prefer to glean information based off of what they generally say. And the point is that Will has always been perceived as weak, and he's an uncertain person. So sure, he hasn't really been a leader. Those are the Duffers' words, literally the creator of Stranger Things. Those are their words, not mine. Don't shoot the messenger. But that means that the natural inference is that his arc will conclude with, fixing those two things. He'll accept himself and step up as a leader. Well, with the finale of Volume 1, he has accepted himself as, like, different. So that means that his arc is starting to wrap up. Combine that and the amount of time that we have left, like, with the series, there's no point in introducing a new major subplot in Will's character, but we're all pretty damn sure he's gonna, like, confess his gay love, right? So that gives us two options with varying intensities. Will either gets rejected or he doesn't. It's as simple as that, pretty much. So, okay, let's entertain the first possibility, rejection, which, if Will does get rejected, then the final message of that would relate back to self-acceptance, which would be, shit, well, who needs a man like fucking Mike Wheeler? I love myself. Except we already kind of got that, didn't we? So what's the use in repeating the fact that Will has accepted himself? You could, say they're cementing it, but it feels pretty damn cemented to me. They had a whole flashback montage. Not only that, but for the Will rejection scene, the hypothetical one, of course, to fit into the current social dynamics of the rest of the characters, they'd have to include a lot of scenes that take up a lot of screen time. They'd probably have a scene with Elle and Will where Elle is like, yo, shucks, my bad, bro. And what relevancy does that have to the overall plot? What does Elle get out of going sorry, lil bro? I have a lot of thoughts on 11. I love her so much. I think a Byler rejection would be very awkward to fit into her current subplots. Byler dating and therefore Mike and 11 breaking up would transition to your character so much better. But maybe I'll talk about that another time maybe. I digress. So let's just imagine Will is confessing in the heat of the moment. He's about to snap some dude's neck and he goes, I love you, Michael Wheeler. And Mike just sort of goes okay, man, I kind of got a girlfriend. But I appreciate, but that is ridiculous. There has to be some sort of tender conversation between the two at some point, even if it's after this initial confession. Everything I said before about Will being rejected was about how it would be repetitive to his storyline, but what about us as viewers, as the audience? What sort of message are we supposed to glean from that? And that's because Will's differences don't only come from supernatural kidnapping, they also come from being someone queer. And there's always going to be a cruelty that comes with being queer. Even if you're not bullied like Will was, the idea that you're different will somehow get to you. The idea that you just won't be accepted. And, I've seen so many people feeling just overjoyed at the queer representation in this show. And I've said before, it's a show about being different. So if Will's love, which is fundamentally perceived as different, is rejected and he just accepts it, then what? He expected it to happen and it's okay? He expected Mike wouldn't like him and he just said it to get it off his back because his love is somehow different and he knows it? Because we as queer people shouldn't expect more, but it's okay because now we love ourselves. I think that's ridiculous. I want to see a character who is queer and can have both. I want a character who can love themselves and be loved by someone romantically, not just accepted. And maybe that's not what the Duffers intended, but they're smart writers. They surely understand that that is a message people will get. And that is so disappointing to their queer audience, which, let me remind you now, is an outcasted audience, which, let me remind you now, is an intended audience for the show. It'd be cruel as hell, especially in this current scarily homophobic political environment. And yeah, we have Robin and Vicky, but I feel like, I don't know, I feel like we should be allowed to have more than one queer ship. Maybe that's crazy, I don't know. And Will has been yearning for this romantic love for so long. That's not to say that Elle doesn't deserve romantic love, but Elle just yearns for general love. It was Mike who decided to make that love romantic. Will intentionally wants this specific romantic love from Mike. And if he does end up getting this cookie, his story is complete with material that is expected but not redundant like a rejection would be. And it also works as a satisfying finish to his arc, and it sends a message to queer people that we deserve to be ambitious and we deserve to be loved. And, now with Collie's introduction, Elle has her own arc revolving around another type of love, which would be familial. Of course, she has that with Hopper as well, but I digress. I just can't wait to see it. And basically, I think it would be kind of cruel to have all that build up for a message from the same damn guy about self acceptance after he gets rejected from the guy he's been pining over for years. Would love to see the aforementioned damn guy kiss another guy instead. So, we can all win and love wins. Oh my god, gay people.